Hello everyone, my name is Eric and I'm an artist and also a cognitive linguist. In today's walk, I want to talk about what I think art is all about. Everyone has a different art journey and I had my share amount of ups and downs, doubts, and a troublesome path. One of my first interactions with art was writing, which was one of the few ways I knew how to express myself since I was a very introvert child. Then, in my adolescence, I began to write short stories and poems and got my first novel published a few years later. I also did theater for some years and recently I've been practicing drawing. I don't know if I consider myself a late bloomer or not, maybe in a few areas, but the point is that art for me was very straightforward. I had something in my mind that I wanted to share. There were scenes and stories in my imagination that I wanted people to hear as well. And in theater, I learned so many different aspects of art that I didn't really know before, so many types of ways to understand reality. If one asked me what I think art is a couple of years ago, probably I would give a different answer. But now I think I have a pretty clear image in my head about what art represents. I want to make a quick observation here. When we say things such as what is art or is this art or not, is this art better than the other one? And things in those areas, I think they are inherently bad questions and can frequently deceive our judgment. I will explain that in a bit. So I've heard many definitions of art, and we can be romantic and abstract all we want, but for me, art is simply a human manifestation. If we take a look at the first signs of art, we see two primary aspects. One is the representation of reality, and the other is an alteration of reality. We have rock carvings, which would represent the activities that the hunter gatherers did, and we have statues, wood carving of a lion man, as in the Lion of Stado in religion. In one, we represent, and the other, we alterate. After some time, with myths and religion, we begin to incorporate the two together and use them as tools for memorization, survival, and using pottery, literature, paintings, and others. It's interesting to me that we have sort of a sense to perceive if something is art or not. The answer doesn't really matter. The interesting is the question. If we can ask if something is art or not, then we must have a clear definition of what art is. Art is something that connects with you. Okay, you can say that, but I can connect with many people and our relationship is not art. It may be a movie or in a book, but it isn't actually a living art, such as paintings and writing. I'm not going to extend on those kinds of abstractions, but I searched for a clear definition of what art could be. And the reason I chose manifestation as a word is because we need the human touch to translate an experience, a moment, a sensation into a summarized version, manifested in music, writing, drawing, and others. But how does this manifestation occur? What it is, actually? For that, you must know a little bit about the cognitive revolution, which is the event that defined our species. It gave us, the sapiens, the ability to abstract and imagination, the perception of itself. And my theory is that this new ability didn't come alone. It also came with another skill of transmutating reality into another thing. We grasp reality and then pound it in a way it will never cease to exist. It is in a way a miracle. There's a reason, after all, don't they, that don't they don't they say that artists after they actually did art, like write a book or make a painting, they are eternal. That is, for me, this is why, for me, art is a human manifestation of reality. We transmute it into what Plato would call a simplified version of reality. But what about the ideas? Why do I choose to do that art instead of another? To write a book instead of another? Stephen King, when asked about where he gets the ideas for his books, he answered that if he knew where the good ideas came from, he would go there more often. And to me, that's a very interesting affirmation because it directly connects with another concept that I may introduce to you as art being a realm, a place, a locus instead of a thing. I know that it may seem that I'm contradicting myself, but stay with me here. I'll explain. The brain operates in many fashions, and we have many areas where we can analyze a simple behavior. We can analyze it structurally, biologically, chemically, many ways. So when a person is doing art, although conscious about it or not, that person is trying to transmute something into existence. Even a baby, when swinging markers, that could represent some sort of conscious intent, but it is hindered in hindered ways since the brain hasn't fully developed yet. The conscious aspect here is important because we don't talk about animal art only if commanded or taught by humans. As the baby grows and the brain of the kid is more able to describe reality, the swings begin to be more mindful, yet chaotic, but more mindful. In this notion, there is a proper tool, an ability to describe and represent, to transmute and manifest something. And King, in his book about writing, explained it as a tool, the writer toolbox, that he must have tools, that is, writing skills, to use in his favor. Those could be background description, character psychology, story arc, and others. Those are conscious tools. They aren't something other animals apparently can do. Their judgment is more attached to rewards than artistic value. They too can answer what art is. There's a word that I want to share that enhances your conversation. Deictics, which means a moment in place and in time, similar to what I've been defining as art. So we use tools and expertise to transmute these deictics into another form of reality, one physically that we can see and say, okay, that's what I had in mind. And some examples that show it are music and paintings. Okay, now with all this information, we can have a common question in linguistics. If I have a message, how do I make it understood by another person? I like to explain it using motion, and you may have heard it as beginning, the middle, and the end. It's a linear equation. I have a video about that too if you're interested. But anyway, since it has a reach point, I like to view it as a way, a path, and the tools I use are to make the path easier for the person consuming my art. Inherently, my objective is for them to understand what I'm trying to show. But the problem is, I've mentioned, the brain operates way more than a linear way. It's almost in all other dimensions. Many things can happen simultaneously, so how can you guide someone into a particular state of mind if there are so many things happening to it? Now, for those questions as what is art and what isn't, and if one is better than the other and whatever, for me, those questions that doesn't make sense because there's a proper formula. For me, there's no social, political, or skillful aspect to art. One art can't be better than another, can't be more intelligent or refined because that it is not the objective of art. Sure, you can have interesting decisions about how you manipulate what you show and how you show your art, but that's about it. At the end of the day, one is still wants to lead the consumer into some place psychologically. So, to understand if one art is better than another, it's difficult because the agent of this question is changing every time. There's always a different answer. In fact, not having a proper answer is the correct answer. As I've dragged myself too much on this, there's another video about art advice. This may seem not related so much at first, but it deeply complements the subject of this video, and I would recommend you to do so if you're interested. So to conclude, I just wanted to elucidate to point out that art is inherently social too. Because art can exist alone, it needs someone else to perceive it, even if that's only you. A friend of mine said that art is 50% the creator and 50% the appreciator, and I do believe this as well. You can try to guide the person using your artistic skills all you want, but in the end, the person will arrive at a place never before explored, a place that only he knows. The place then, the objective then is to try to replicate a similar experience, not exactly one thing itself. You can try to send a message and the person receive it in a completely different way. The thing that matters is the interaction, is the in between. If what we concluded today is true, that art is a journey, a manifestation of ethics, then we must remember that the end is not the goal, but the natural course. The goal is the journey. More videos about art, linguistics, and neuroscience in the playlist.